The stagecoach lurched to a halt outside the weathered boarding house in Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation territory in 1878, and through the dusty window, Marcus Cole saw something that would change his life forever. A woman collapsing onto the dirt road, her traveling dress soaked with sweat despite the cool October air. He dropped the saddle he had been oiling and ran. Other townsfolk gathered around, murmuring concern, but most kept their distance. Fever could mean anything, and anything could mean contagion. Marcus did not care about such considerations as he knelt beside her, pressing his weathered hand against her forehead. She burned like a furnace. "Someone get Doc Henderson," Marcus called out, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to being heard. He was 32, tall and broad-shouldered from years of breaking horses and driving cattle, his face tanned leather brown from endless days under the prairie sun. The woman's eyes fluttered open for just a moment, revealing irises the color of storm clouds. Her lips moved, trying to form words, but only a whisper emerged. "Please." Then she went limp in his arms. Doc Henderson arrived within minutes, his medical bag rattling with glass bottles. He was a thin man with spectacles perched on his nose, respected throughout the territory for his skill. He examined her briefly there in the street, feeling her pulse, checking her breathing. "Typhoid, most likely," he said grimly. "Or mountain fever. Hard to say without more examination. She needs constant care, fluids, cool compresses. The boarding house will not take her, not with fever. Too risky for their other guests." Marcus looked down at the unconscious woman in his arms. She appeared young, perhaps in her mid-20s, with dark auburn hair that had come loose from its pins. Her clothes, though dusty and sweat-stained, were well made, suggesting she came from some means. But none of that mattered right now. "My place, then," Marcus said. "I have got room, and I have nursed sick horses back from worse than this." Doc Henderson raised an eyebrow. "She is not a horse, Marcus. I know that, but fever is fever, and I will not leave her to die in the street." He carried her the quarter-mile to his small ranch on the outskirts of Tahlequah. It was not much, just a sturdy cabin he had built himself 3 years prior, along with a barn, a corral, and 20 acres of grazing land for his horses. He had come west from Missouri after the war, seeking peace and solitude, and had found both in the Cherokee Nation, where folks mostly left him to his business as long as he paid his lease on time and caused no trouble. Inside, Marcus laid her on his own bed, the only proper bed in the cabin. Doc Henderson followed, immediately setting to work. He stripped away her outer garments with professional detachment, leaving her in her chemise and petticoats, and began a thorough examination. "Definitely fever, definitely serious," the doctor confirmed. "Her pulse is rapid, her breathing shallow. See these spots beginning on her chest? That suggests typhoid. We need to cool her down, get fluids into her however we can, and pray. The next few days will tell us if she lives or dies." Marcus nodded, already moving to fill his wash basin with cool water from the pump. "Tell me what to do." For the next 72 hours, Marcus did not leave her side except to fetch fresh water or prepare thin broths. He followed Doc Henderson's instructions with meticulous care, bathing her burning skin with cool cloths, changing them constantly as they grew warm. He tilted her head back and dribbled water between her cracked lips, speaking encouragement even though she could not hear him. "You have got to fight," he told her during the dark hours of the second night, when her fever spiked and she began to shake with chills despite her burning skin. "I do not know who you are or where you came from, but you did not travel all this way just to die in a stranger's cabin." She thrashed sometimes, crying out words he could not understand, reaching for things he could not see. During those moments, he held her hands gently but firmly, keeping her from harming herself, speaking in the same calm voice he used with frightened horses. "Easy now, easy. You are safe here. Nobody is going to hurt you." Doc Henderson visited twice daily, checking her condition, adjusting his recommendations. On the fourth day, her fever broke slightly, and she managed to swallow a few spoonfuls of broth. The doctor nodded with cautious approval. "She has a fighter's spirit," he observed. "Most would have succumbed by now. Keep doing what you are doing, Marcus, but prepare yourself. She is not out of danger yet. Typhoid can rally and strike again, sometimes worse than before." Marcus simply nodded and returned to his vigil. He had neglected his horses, his chores, everything except keeping this woman alive. His neighbor, an older Cherokee man named Samuel Swimmer, had taken to feeding the animals and checking the property without being asked, understanding in the way good neighbors do that help was needed. By the end of the first week, she began to have longer periods of consciousness, though she remained too weak to speak or even fully open her eyes. Marcus would catch her watching him sometimes as he moved about the cabin, her gray eyes tracking his movements with confused awareness. "Do not try to talk yet," he told her gently. "Save your strength for healing." She would drift back to sleep then, and he would return to his routine of care. He had become accustomed to her presence, to the rhythm of changing compresses, coaxing fluids and thin soups into her, washing her face and hands. It felt strangely natural, caring for her, as though his cabin had been waiting for exactly this purpose. The second week brought improvement. Her fever diminished to a low-grade warmth, and she could take more substantial broths. She watched him more often, and he could see questions forming behind those gray eyes. But she remained too weak to voice them, and he did not press. "You will talk when you are ready," he assured her. For now, just work on getting well. He had taken to reading to her in the evenings, choosing from his small collection of books. He had always been an avid reader, unusual for a cowboy, but the long, lonely nights on the ranch had made him grateful for the company of good stories. He read her passages from Washington Irving and James Fenimore Cooper, and poetry from Longfellow. He did not know if she could understand or if she even heard him, but it seemed to soothe her, help her sleep more peacefully. By the third week, she could sit up for short periods, propped against his pillows. Doc Henderson pronounced himself cautiously optimistic. "The worst has passed," he declared. "She will live, but recovery from typhoid is slow. She will need weeks more of care before she has her strength back." Marcus nodded, feeling a relief so profound it surprised him. Somewhere during those endless hours of nursing, this stranger had become important to him in ways he could not quite name. She spoke for the first time on the 22nd day. Marcus was spooning soup into her mouth, the same vegetable broth he had been making for weeks, when she suddenly raised a trembling hand to stop him. "Thank you." Her voice came out as barely more than a rasp, but it was the sweetest sound Marcus had heard in months. He smiled, genuine warmth flooding his chest. "You are welcome. Can you manage a bit more?" She nodded weakly and finished the bowl. Then she looked at him directly, really looked at him, and asked, "Where am I?" "Tahlequah, Cherokee Nation. My ranch just outside town." "You collapsed from the stage coach nearly a month ago." Her eyes widened. "A month? You have been very sick. Typhoid fever. We were not certain you would make it." She absorbed this slowly, her gaze moving around the simple cabin, taking in the rough-hewn furniture, the stone fireplace, the strings of drying herbs hanging from the rafters. Her eyes returned to him, studying his face with an intensity that made him self-conscious. "You cared for me all this time?" "Yes, madam. Doc Henderson gave the instructions, but the daily care, that fell to me. Color rose in her pale cheeks as understanding dawned. You mean you bathed me, changed my clothes? Only what was necessary for your health, Marcus said quickly, feeling his own face warm. I promise you, madam, I treated you with all respect. She nodded slowly, embarrassment warring with gratitude in her expression. I believe you. I can feel that I was cared for gently. She paused, seeming to gather strength. My traveling case, did it come with me? It is right here. Marcus retrieved a worn leather case from the corner. I have not opened it. Seemed like an invasion of your privacy. Relief crossed her features. Thank you for that, too. They sat in companionable silence for a moment before Marcus stood. You should rest now. Talking takes energy, and you need to save your strength for healing. Wait, she called as he moved toward the door. What should I call you? He paused, hand on the door frame. Strangely, in all these weeks, names had seemed irrelevant. He had been the caretaker, she had been the patient, and those roles had been enough. Marcus, he said. Marcus Cole. Thank you, Marcus Cole, she smiled weakly, for saving my life. He nodded and stepped outside, needing a moment in the fresh air. The November wind carried the scent of coming winter, and he realized with a start that the seasons had been changing while he lived in that timeless space of the sick room. His horses whinnied in greeting, and he walked to the corral to check on them, finding them well cared for. Samuel had been more than generous with his help. When Marcus returned to the cabin an hour later, she was sleeping again, but it was different now. The sleep of healing rather than illness, her breathing deep and even her face peaceful. He settled into the chair beside the bed with his leather working, content to sit in her presence. The next morning, she managed to eat a more substantial breakfast of eggs and bread, and she sat up for nearly an hour. But when Marcus asked if she could tell him her name, she looked troubled. I know this will sound strange, she said slowly, but I would prefer not to say just yet. Not because I mean any deception, but because back where I came from, my name carries certain expectations, certain obligations. Here, recovering in your care, I am just a woman getting well. I have not felt this free in years, and I would like to hold on to it a little longer. Is that terribly improper of me? Marcus considered this. I suppose we have already thrown propriety out the window, given the circumstances. You can be whoever you wish to be for as long as you need. Relief brightened her features. You are a kind man, Marcus Cole. So the days continued in that strange, suspended way. She grew stronger incrementally, able to sit up longer, to stand with support, to take a few steps around the cabin. Marcus moved his belongings to the barn, giving her proper privacy, though he stayed close enough to hear if she called out in the night. They talked more as her strength returned. She asked about his life, and he told her about growing up in Missouri, about fighting in the war though he did not dwell on those dark years, about coming west seeking something he could not quite name. Did you find it? She asked. What you were looking for? Marcus thought about that. I found peace. I found honest work and good land. I found neighbors who judge a man by his actions rather than his past. I suppose that is enough. But you are alone out here. I have my horses. I have friends in town. It is a good life. She looked at him with those penetrating gray eyes. But lonely sometimes. He could not lie to her. Yes, sometimes lonely. She nodded understanding, and he sensed that loneliness was something she knew intimately, despite whatever privileged background her clothes and bearing suggested. In turn, she told him about growing up back east, though she remained vague about specifics. She spoke of a childhood spent in drawing rooms and formal gardens, of expectations and duty, of a life that had felt increasingly suffocating. I was traveling west when the fever struck, she explained. Seeking something different, something real. I suppose I found more reality than I bargained for. Do you regret coming? No, she said firmly. I only regret bringing my troubles to your door. You did not bring them. Sickness came uninvited, but you are healing now, and that is what matters." By the 6th week, she could walk around the cabin unaided and even step outside for brief periods. The December air was sharp and cold, but she would stand on his small porch, wrapped in blankets, breathing deep and watching the horses in the corral. "They are beautiful," she observed one day. "The way they move, so free and powerful. Would you like to meet them properly?" Her face lit up. "Could I?" Marcus helped her to the corral, supporting her elbow, though she truly did not need it anymore. The horses came to investigate, and she laughed with delight as they snuffled at her hands, seeking treats. "This one is Dancer," Marcus introduced a dappled mare. "And that big fellow is Thunder. The bay over there is Sage, and the black is Midnight." She stroked Dancer's velvet nose with obvious affection. "I used to ride when I was younger. My father kept a stable, but it has been years. When you are fully well, I will teach you again if you like. A good horse can make you feel alive in ways nothing else can. I would like that very much." They stood in companionable silence, watching the horses, and Marcus found himself acutely aware of her presence beside him. Over these weeks, she had become woven into his life in ways he had not anticipated. The cabin felt fuller with her in it, warmer somehow beyond the physical heat of the fire. He had grown accustomed to her voice, to her questions and observations, to the way she listened when he spoke as though his words truly mattered. Doc Henderson visited less frequently now, pleased with her recovery. On one of his visits in mid-December, he took Marcus aside. "She is doing remarkably well," the doctor said. "Another week or two and she will be nearly back to full strength. Have you given thought to what happens then?" Marcus had, though he did not like the direction of his thoughts. "I suppose she will want to continue her journey wherever she was heading." "And if she does not?" "What do you mean?" Doc Henderson gave him a knowing look. "Marcus, I have known you 3 years, and I have never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her. And unless I am much mistaken, she watches you the same way." Marcus felt heat rise in his face. "She was under my care. It would be improper to think of her as anything but a patient." "She is not your patient anymore. She is a grown woman free to make her own choices, as are you." The doctor clapped him on the shoulder. "Just think about it. Loneliness is a poor companion for a good man." After Doc Henderson left, Marcus found himself watching her more openly. She was reading by the fire, her face absorbed in one of his books. She had gained back some of the weight lost to illness, and color had returned to her cheeks. Her auburn hair, which had been limp and dull during her sickness, now shone in the firelight. She was beautiful, he realized, though he had been too focused on keeping her alive to notice before. As if sensing his gaze, she looked up and smiled. "This book is wonderful. Have you read it?" "Several times. Twain has a way of finding humor in ordinary things." "You have good taste in books. I would not have expected to find such a collection in a cowboy's cabin." "People contain multitudes," Marcus said. "We are rarely just one thing." "No, we are not." She set the book aside. "Marcus, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you do it? Take me in, care for me all those weeks. You did not know me. I could have been anyone." He took his time answering, wanting to give her the truth. "I am not sure I can explain it properly. When I saw you fall from that stagecoach, something in me just knew I could not walk away. Maybe it was because I remember what it feels like to be helpless, to need someone and have nobody come. During the war, I was wounded and left for dead on a battlefield. A stranger found me, an old farmer, and he took me to his home and nursed me back to health. He did not know me, did not care which side I had fought for. He just saw another human being in need. I have always thought I would do the same if I got the chance, so when you collapsed, it seemed like the universe was giving me that opportunity. She blinked rapidly, and he saw tears gathering in her eyes. That is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me. It is just the truth. Truth can be beautiful. She stood and crossed to where he sat, then did something that surprised them both. She leaned down and kissed his cheek, soft and brief. "Thank you, Marcus Cole, for seeing me as a human being worth saving." Before he could respond, she returned to her chair and picked up her book, though he noticed her hands trembled slightly. His own heart was hammering in his chest, and he could still feel the phantom warmth of her lips against his skin. That night, lying in his bedroll in the barn, Marcus stared up at the rafters and acknowledged what he had been denying for weeks. He was falling in love with her, perhaps had already fallen, and he had no idea what to do about it. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Marcus was feeding the horses when she came out, wrapped in one of his heavy coats. She had pinned her hair up, and in the morning light she looked healthy and strong, nothing like the dying woman he had carried into his cabin 2 months before. "Good morning," she called, her breath misting in the cold air. "Morning, you are up early." "I slept well. I feel good, Marcus, really good for the first time since I fell ill." She came to stand beside him. "I think it is time." His heart sank. Time, I told you who I am. You deserve to know." They went inside and she made coffee while he built up the fire. When they were settled at his small table, cups warming their hands, she began to speak. "My name is Naomi Watson. I come from Philadelphia. My father is Harrison Watson. Perhaps you have heard of him." Marcus shook his head and she looked relieved. "He owns several factories and a railroad company. He is very wealthy, very powerful, and very determined to control every aspect of his children's lives. I am his only daughter, and he had decided I would marry a business associate, a man named Cornelius Bradford. Cornelius is 56 years old. I am 25. Marcus felt anger kindle in his chest. "And you did not want to marry him?" "I did not even know him. We had met twice, formal occasions where we barely spoke, but my father had made his decision, and in his world, what Harrison Watson decides becomes reality." She stared into her coffee. "The wedding was planned for November. In September, I made my own decision. I took what money I had saved, bought a train ticket west, and disappeared. Your family must be worried. My father will be furious, but not worried. Worry requires caring about someone beyond their usefulness to you." The bitterness in her voice was sharp. "I left a letter explaining I could not marry Cornelius, that I needed to find my own path. I doubt it made any difference." "Where were you headed when you got sick?" "I was not certain. I just knew I needed to get far enough away that my father could not easily retrieve me. I had thought perhaps California, or maybe I would find a place along the way that felt right. Then the fever struck, and I remember nothing until I woke up here." Marcus absorbed this. "So Naomi Watson is your real name. That is what I should call you." "If you do not mind, I would prefer you keep calling me what you have been calling me. Which is to say, nothing much. Or perhaps you could choose a name for me, something new. I would like to leave Naomi Watson behind, at least for a while longer." "That seems like an important decision, choosing your own name." "Then help me choose. What do you see when you look at me?" Marcus studied her, really looked at her, and thought about these past months. "I see someone brave, someone who fought death and won. Someone who does not give up even when life becomes unbearable." He paused. "There is a word from the Bible. It means pleasant, delightful. Naomi, actually. That is what your name already means." She laughed, surprised. "I did not know that. My mother chose it, but she died when I was young, so I never knew her reasoning. Then perhaps your mother saw in you as a baby what I see now. Someone meant for better things than what was being forced upon you. Perhaps you do not need a new name at all. Perhaps you just need the freedom to become who Naomi Watson was always meant to be. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she was smiling. How did you become so wise, Marcus Cole? I am not wise. I just know what it feels like to search for yourself. She reached across the table and took his hand, a gesture that felt monumental in its simplicity. I do not want to leave here. I know I should. I know staying creates complications, raises questions about propriety and reputation. But these months recovering here, even sick and weak, I have felt more like myself than I have in years. Is that foolish? Marcus squeezed her hand gently. It is not foolish, but Naomi, you need to understand something. If you stay, people will talk. Tahlequah is a small place, and you have been living in my cabin for 2 months now. Doc Henderson has kept folks' curiosity at bay with reports of your illness, but now that you are well, there will be questions. What if I do not care about talk? You might not care, but I do. About you, I mean. I would not have your reputation damaged because of me. She looked at him steadily. And what if I told you I would gladly weather any scandal for the chance to stay here, to know you better, to see what might grow between us? Because, Marcus, I think you must know by now that I care for you, that what I feel has grown far beyond gratitude. His heart was thundering so hard he was certain she could hear it. You have been through a terrible ordeal. Your feelings might be confused, mixed up with gratitude and dependency. I would not take advantage of that. I am not confused. Her voice was firm. I know my own mind and heart. I know that you are good and kind and patient. I know that you saved my life and asked nothing in return. I know that I feel safe with you in a way I have never felt with anyone else. And I know that when I think about leaving, about never seeing you again, it makes me want to weep. Marcus stood abruptly, unable to sit still with the emotions roiling through him. He paced to the window, staring out at his small ranch. I care for you too, he said quietly. More than I should, probably. But Naomi, I am a cowboy living on leased land in the Cherokee Nation. I break horses for money and barely scrape by most months. You come from wealth, from a world I cannot even imagine. Even if we wanted to build something together, the differences between us are vast. The only difference that matters is that in your world I can choose my own path. In mine, I could not. She came to stand behind him. I am not asking for promises or commitments, Marcus. I am just asking for time. Let me stay, help around the ranch, earn my keep. Let us see what grows between us without the weight of expectations or obligations. Can you give me that? He turned to face her, and the hope and fear mingled in her gray eyes undid him. You do not need to earn your keep. But yes, you can stay, for as long as you want. The smile that broke across her face was radiant. Before he could react, she threw her arms around him in an embrace that felt like coming home. He hesitated only a moment before wrapping his arms around her, breathing in the lavender scent of her hair. Thank you, she whispered against his chest. Thank you for giving me this chance. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the morning light, and Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Some piece of himself he had not known was missing, clicking into place. The next weeks passed in a kind of golden haze. Naomi insisted on helping with chores, learning to cook hearty ranch meals, to clean and mend, to care for the chickens Marcus kept for eggs. She proved herself capable and eager to learn, unafraid of hard work despite her privileged upbringing. My father kept me locked in parlors and ballrooms, she explained one day as she scattered feed for the chickens. But I always wanted to do real things, useful things. This feels good. Marcus taught her to ride again, starting her on Dancer, the gentlest of his horses. She took to it quickly, her childhood lessons returning as she found her seat and balance. Watching her ride through his pastures, her auburn hair streaming behind her, her face bright with joy. Marcus felt his heart swell with feelings he could no longer deny. They talked endlessly, sharing their stories, their dreams, their fears. She told him about her mother's death when she was 8, about her cold and distant father, about growing up in a mansion that felt like a beautiful prison. He told her about his own parents, simple farming folk who had died of cholera, about the horrors he had witnessed in the war, about the long journey toward finding peace. "You ever regret not marrying, settling down before now?" Naomi asked one evening as they sat by the fire. "I was not ready before. The war left me broken in ways I did not fully understand. I needed time alone to heal, to find myself again." He glanced at her. "But I am not broken anymore." "No," she agreed softly. "You are whole. Perhaps the most whole person I have ever known." As Christmas approached, Marcus made a trip into Tahlequah for supplies. The general store owner, a portly man named Mr. Keller, greeted him with poorly concealed curiosity. "Heard tell your house guest is up and about," he said as he tallied Marcus's purchases. "She has recovered, yes. Mighty charitable of you, taking in a stranger that way. It seemed the Christian thing to do." "Oh, certainly, certainly. Just folks are wondering, about the situation. Young woman living out at your place and you being an unmarried man." Marcus met his gaze steadily. "Miss Watson is a respectable woman who fell ill through no fault of her own. I provided her care when nobody else would. If folks want to make something improper out of that, that says more about them than about us." Mr. Keller had the grace to look abashed. "I meant no offense, Marcus. Just passing along what folks are saying." "Then you can pass along that Miss Watson is under my protection, and anyone who speaks ill of her will answer to me." The firmness in his tone ended the conversation. As Marcus loaded his supplies onto his wagon, he knew this was only the beginning. Small towns thrived on gossip, and his situation with Naomi was unusual enough to fuel speculation for months. When he returned to the ranch, he found Naomi in the barn, brushing Dancer with long, gentle strokes. She looked up as he entered, and the smile she gave him chased away his irritation at Mr. Keller. "How was town?" "Fine. Folks are curious about you. I expected they would be." She continued brushing, unconcerned. "Does it bother you?" "Only because I do not want their gossip to hurt you." She set down the brush and came to him. "Marcus, I left behind everyone and everything I knew to escape a life that was suffocating me. Do you truly think I care what strangers in a small town say? You might care eventually. Then I will deal with it eventually. For now, I am happy here." "Are you happy?" He could not lie. "Yes, happier than I have been in years." "Then that is all that matters." She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, a gesture that had become familiar but never failed to make his pulse quicken. On Christmas Eve, Marcus cut down a small pine tree and brought it inside. Naomi clapped her hands in delight, and together they strung it with popped corn and scraps of ribbon. It was humble compared to what she must have known in Philadelphia, but she treated it like the finest Christmas tree in the world. "I have never decorated a tree with my own hands before," she admitted. "Servants always did it at home. This is better." They spent Christmas Day quietly, just the two of them. Marcus had managed to find small gifts in town: a book of poetry for Naomi, a warm shawl in deep blue. She had made him a shirt from fabric she had bought with money from a piece of jewelry she had sold, her stitches neat and even. "It is perfect," Marcus said, genuinely touched. "Thank you. Thank you for the book and the shawl, and for giving me the best Christmas I have ever had. We ate rabbit stew and cornbread. You used to have feasts. I had extravagant meals with people I did not care about. This is better. This is real." That night, as they sat by the fire, Naomi moved from her chair to sit beside Marcus on the floor, leaning against him. He put his arm around her carefully as though she might startle and flee. Instead, she nestled closer. "I love you," she said quietly. "I know I should not say it so baldly, but I have never been good at playing games. I love you, Marcus Cole, and I wanted you to know." His breath caught. "Naomi, are you certain? It has only been a few months, and most of that you were sick." "I am certain." "I have never been more certain of anything." She looked up at him. "You do not have to say it back, I just needed you to know." But Marcus found the words came easily, naturally, as though they had been waiting to be spoken. "I love you too. I think I have loved you since the moment you opened your eyes and fought your way back to life. You are the bravest, strongest, most beautiful person I have ever known." She turned in his arms, and then they were kissing, tender and sweet and full of promise. It was Marcus's first kiss in years, and he had never felt anything so right. When they finally pulled apart, both were trembling. "Marry me," Marcus said, the words surprising him even as they left his mouth. "I know I have little to offer, but marry me, be my wife, build a life with me here." Tears streamed down Naomi's face. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed again, and the future that had seemed so uncertain suddenly blazed bright and clear before them. They were married in January of 1879 in a simple ceremony at the small church in Tahlequah. Doc Henderson stood as witness, along with Samuel Swimmer and his wife. The preacher, a kind-faced man named Reverend Thomas, asked no difficult questions about Naomi's past or her lack of family present. Naomi wore a simple dress she had sewn herself, pale yellow calico that brought out the gold in her auburn hair. Marcus wore his new shirt and his one good suit. They spoke their vows with steady voices, promises given freely and received with joy. "I, Marcus, take you, Naomi, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death parts us. I, Naomi, take you, Marcus, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death parts us. You saved my life, and now I give it back to you freely, to share together." There were not many guests, but those present beamed with genuine happiness. The gossip had not entirely died down, but married respectability silenced most of the wagging tongues. After the ceremony, they returned to the ranch that was now truly theirs together. Marcus carried Naomi over the threshold, both of them laughing, and set her down gently in what was now their shared home. "Welcome home, Mrs. Cole," he said. "Welcome home, Mr. Cole," she replied and kissed him. Their wedding night was tender and sweet, a joining born of months of growing love and trust. Naomi had been nervous, admitting she knew little of what to expect, and Marcus had been patient and gentle, showing her with actions what words could not express. Afterward, lying in each other's arms in the darkness, Naomi traced patterns on Marcus's chest with her finger. "I did not know it could be like this," she whispered. "That love could feel this way." "Like what?" "Safe and exciting at the same time, peaceful and thrilling, complete." Marcus kissed her forehead. "That is exactly how you make me feel." The winter passed in contented domesticity. They worked the ranch together, Naomi proving herself capable at every task. She learned to rope, to mend tack, to doctor sick animals. She kept their small home spotless and warm, cooked meals that actually tasted good, and brought laughter and light into spaces that had been silent for too long. Marcus had never been happier. He would wake in the morning with Naomi beside him and have to convince himself it was not a dream. This woman, this amazing, brave, beautiful woman had chosen him, had chosen this life. It seemed impossible and yet was absolutely real. In March, Samuel Swimmer approached Marcus about buying the land he had been leasing. "I am getting old," Samuel explained. My children have moved away and I do not need so much land anymore. I would rather see it go to someone who will work it properly, who will respect it. You have been a good neighbor, Marcus. I can think of no one I would rather sell to. The price was fair, more than fair. With the small savings Marcus had accumulated and a loan from the bank, the deal was struck. By April, Marcus and Naomi officially owned their 20 acres, their cabin, their barn. It was not a large spread, but it was theirs, free and clear except for the bank note that Marcus was confident he could repay within a few years. We own land, Naomi marveled as they walked their property line. Real land, Marcus, a place that belongs to us. A place where we can build whatever life we want, Marcus agreed. Where we can raise children, grow old together. Children, Naomi repeated softly. I would like that. Would you? Very much. Though not right away, I want you to myself for a while first. She laughed and pulled him into a kiss there in the spring sunshine, surrounded by their land, their future stretching bright before them. But the past, as pasts do, eventually caught up with them. In May, a stranger arrived at the ranch, a Pinkerton detective named Albert Ross. He was polite but persistent, asking if Marcus knew the whereabouts of Naomi Watson of Philadelphia. What business is it of yours? Marcus asked, positioning himself between the detective and the cabin where Naomi was working. Her father hired me to locate her. He has been searching since she disappeared last September. He is most anxious for her safe return. I am sure he is, Marcus said dryly, but perhaps his daughter does not wish to be found. Ross's expression remained neutral. I am simply doing my job, Mr. Cole. Harrison Watson is a powerful man and he wants his daughter back. It would be easier for everyone if she came willingly. And if she does not, then Mr. Watson has legal options. She is his daughter, his responsibility. She is 25 years old and married. I do not think the law sees her as his property. Ross raised an eyebrow. Married? To whom? To me. We wed in January, all legal and proper. So you can go back to Philadelphia and tell Harrison Watson that his daughter is well, happy, and living her own life. She is no longer his concern. The detective studied Marcus for a long moment. I will convey your message, Mr. Cole, but I suspect this matter is not concluded. After Ross left, Marcus told Naomi about the visit. She went pale but stood firm. I am not going back, she said. Not ever. This is my home now. You are my family. Your father might make trouble. Let him try. I am legally married. He has no claim on me. But Marcus worried. He had heard stories about men like Harrison Watson, men who were accustomed to getting what they wanted through whatever means necessary. He increased his vigilance, made sure Naomi was never alone at the ranch, kept his rifle closer at hand. 2 weeks later, Harrison Watson himself arrived in Tahlequah. He was an imposing man in his 60s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, entirely out of place in the dusty frontier town. He came to the ranch in a rented carriage, accompanied by 2 large men who were clearly hired muscle. Marcus met them in the yard, his rifle across his arms, not quite threatening but not welcoming either. Mr. Watson, I presume. Where is my daughter? Watson's voice was cold, used to obedience. Mrs. Cole is inside. Whether she wishes to see you is her decision. Mrs. Cole. Watson's lip curled. You married her for her money, I suppose. Let me assure you she will not see a penny of my fortune. I did not marry her for money. I married her because I love her. Love. Watson spat the word. What does a frontier cowboy know of love? You took advantage of a confused girl, seduced her with pretty words and false promises. That marriage is invalid, obtained under duress. There was no duress except what you put her under, Marcus said, anger rising. trying to force her into marriage with a man old enough to be her father, treating her like property to be traded for business advantages. How dare you presume to lecture me about my own daughter? I dare because someone needs to. You do not own her. You never did. The cabin door opened and Naomi stepped out. She had changed since leaving Philadelphia, Marcus thought. She stood taller, moved with more confidence, looked stronger. There was no trace of the frightened, fevered woman who had collapsed from the stagecoach 7 months ago. "Father," she said calmly, "you should not have come." "Naomi, thank God." Watson moved toward her, but Marcus shifted to block him. The older man glared. "Daughter, you have been deceived, taken advantage of. This man clearly has no idea who you really are. He knows exactly who I am, better than you ever did." Naomi came to stand beside Marcus, and he felt her hand slip into his, small but strong. "I am not coming back, Father. I am married. This is my home, and Marcus is my family now. That marriage is a sham, and I will prove it. I will have it annulled." "On what grounds? I married willingly, of sound mind, legally. There are no grounds for annulment. You were ill, confused, vulnerable. This man took advantage." "I was ill in October and November. I married in January, fully recovered and completely certain of my choice." Naomi's voice was steady. "I understand you are angry, Father, but I am an adult and I have made my decision. You need to respect that." Watson's face reddened. "After everything I have given you, this is how you repay me. Running off to live in squalor with this nobody." "This nobody," Naomi said quietly, "saved my life when I was dying. He asked for nothing in return. He treated me with more kindness and respect in one day than you showed me in 25 years. I do not consider that nothing. You are throwing your life away. I am claiming my life. There is a difference." She squeezed Marcus's hand. "Please leave, Father. There is nothing more to say." Watson looked between them, his face a mask of fury and frustration. "This is not over, Naomi. I will contest that marriage. I will make life difficult for both of you." "You can try," Marcus said. "But we are not afraid of difficulty. We have already survived worse than you can imagine." Watson turned and stalked back to his carriage, his hired men following. Before climbing in, he called back, "You will regret this, Naomi. When you are living in poverty, when this illusion of love fades, you will wish you had listened to me." "Goodbye, Father," Naomi said, and there was finality in her voice. They watched the carriage disappear down the road. Then Naomi sagged against Marcus, and he realized she was shaking. "You did wonderfully," he told her. "You were so strong." "I do not feel strong, I feel terrified." "What if he really can annul our marriage?" "He cannot. You are of age, you married willingly, the ceremony was proper and witnessed. He is bluffing, using threats because that is all he has." Marcus tilted her face up. "I will not let him take you from me. Whatever he tries, we will face it together." She kissed him fiercely. "I love you, I never want to be apart from you. You will not be, I promise." True to his word, Harrison Watson tried to make trouble. He hired lawyers who filed papers claiming the marriage was invalid due to Naomi's state of mind following her illness. But Doc Henderson provided sworn testimony about her recovery timeline, confirming she had been fully healthy when she married. Reverend Thomas testified to her clear consent. Samuel Swimmer and his wife confirmed they had witnessed a proper ceremony between two willing participants. The case was dismissed in August. Harrison Watson, accustomed to buying whatever outcomes he desired, found that frontier justice cared more about facts than money. He returned to Philadelphia in defeat, and they never heard from him again. The victory left them both relieved and exhausted. That night, lying in bed, Naomi turned to Marcus. "It is truly over," she said wonderingly. "We are free. We always were, but I am glad it is official." Now we can really start our life together without his shadow hanging over us. Marcus pulled her close. Our life started the day you opened your eyes and decided to fight. Everything since then has just been building on that foundation. In September, on the one-year anniversary of her arrival in Tahlequah, they hosted a small celebration. Doc Henderson came, as did Samuel and his wife, several neighbors and friends from town. It was both a belated wedding reception and a celebration of survival and new beginnings. "A year ago, I was dying in your bed," Naomi said during a toast. "I did not know where I was or who you were. I only knew that someone was caring for me with incredible gentleness. That care saved my life and gave me something I had never had before, real love. So today I celebrate not just surviving, but finding home." There was not a dry eye in the cabin, Marcus's included. That winter, Naomi discovered she was pregnant. They had hoped for children but not expected them quite so soon. The news filled them both with joy and trepidation. "What if something goes wrong?" Naomi worried. "What if the fever damaged me somehow, made me weak?" "You are the strongest person I know," Marcus assured her. "And Doc Henderson says you are perfectly healthy. We are going to be parents, Naomi. It is going to be wonderful." He was attentive throughout her pregnancy, perhaps overly so, remembering those long months of nursing her. But Naomi bore his hovering with good humor, gently reminding him that pregnancy was not illness. Their son was born in June of 1880, a perfect baby with Marcus's dark hair and Naomi's gray eyes. They named him Daniel after Marcus's father, and both of them wept with joy holding him for the first time. "We made this," Naomi marveled. "This perfect little person. You made him." "I just helped a little." "You do much more than help." She looked up at Marcus. "You are going to be a wonderful father." He was. Marcus took to fatherhood with the same patient dedication he brought to everything. He would walk the floor with Daniel during the night, crooning softly to soothe him. He built a cradle by hand, sanding it smooth so no rough edges could harm tender skin. He treated his son with a gentleness that never failed to make Naomi's heart swell. Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah, arrived 2 years later. She had Naomi's auburn hair and Marcus's ready smile. With 2 children, the cabin felt wonderfully full and chaotic. Marcus built an addition, adding 2 small bedrooms so the children could have their own space as they grew. The ranch prospered. Marcus's reputation as a horse trainer spread, and he found steady work breaking horses for ranchers throughout the Cherokee Nation and beyond. Naomi managed their finances with a skill born of her educated upbringing, ensuring they saved money, paid down their debts, and slowly expanded their holdings. By 1885, they owned 40 acres and ran a small herd of cattle in addition to the horses. They hired help during busy seasons, and their brand became known for quality. It was not a grand empire, but it was solid and sustainable, built on hard work and careful management. The children grew healthy and happy. Daniel showed early talent with horses, following his father everywhere, mimicking his gentle handling. Sarah was bright and curious, always asking questions, always wanting to understand how things worked. "She reminds me of you," Marcus told Naomi one evening as they watched their daughter examine a flower with intense concentration. "That same desire to really see things, to understand them deeply. Daniel has your patience and kindness. They are good children. We are blessed." "We are," Naomi agreed. "More than I ever imagined possible." On their 10th wedding anniversary in January of 1889, they renewed their vows in the same small church where they had married. Their children stood with them, Daniel now 8 and Sarah 6, both beaming. The church was full of friends and neighbors, people who had come to respect and care for the Coles. I, Marcus, again take you, Naomi, to be my wife. 10 years ago, I promised to love and cherish you, and I have done so gladly every day since. You have made my life richer than I could have dreamed. You gave me a family, a home, a purpose beyond mere survival. I promise to spend the rest of my days making you as happy as you have made me. I, Naomi, again take you, Marcus, to be my husband. 10 years ago, you saved my life, though I did not even know your name. Since then, you have given me everything I never knew I needed: freedom, love, partnership, children, home. You saw me not as property or a chess piece in someone else's game, but as a person worthy of care and respect. That gift is priceless. I promise to love you with all that I am, for all the days of my life. There was not a dry eye in the church. Afterward, at the celebration held at their ranch, Doc Henderson pulled Marcus aside. "You have built something remarkable here," the doctor said. "A good family, a successful ranch, the respect of your community. I am proud to know you, Marcus. I owe you a debt I can never repay. If you had not helped me save her, you would have saved her anyway. You had the determination and the love. I just provided the medical knowledge." Henderson smiled. "She chose well when she chose you. I think I am the one who chose well." As the years passed, the ranch continued to grow. Marcus taught Daniel everything about horses and cattle, and the boy proved himself a capable rancher. Sarah, despite expectations that she would focus on domestic skills, showed a keen mind for business and eventually took over managing the ranch's finances from Naomi. A third child arrived unexpectedly when Naomi was 38, a surprise baby they named Hope because, as Naomi said, "She reminds us that life always has more blessings to offer if we remain open to them." Marcus's hair grayed and lines deepened around his eyes, but his love for Naomi never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger, deepened by shared experiences, by children raised together, by hardships weathered and joys celebrated. Naomi bloomed in the life she had chosen. The frightened, trapped woman who had fled Philadelphia was long gone, replaced by a confident rancher's wife who could rope a steer, balance account books, deliver a foal, and make the best apple pie in the territory. She never regretted her choice, never looked back with longing at the privileged life she had abandoned. "How could I regret real for artificial?" she told Marcus on their 20th anniversary. "You gave me a real life, real love, real purpose. Everything before you was just pretend." Oklahoma became a state in 1907, and with statehood came changes. The Cherokee Nation lands were divided, and the Coles had to navigate new laws and regulations. But they adapted, as they always had, protecting what they had built while adjusting to new realities. Their children grew and made their own lives. Daniel married a Cherokee woman named Mary, and they built a house on the far edge of the family land, raising horses and 3 children of their own. Sarah shocked everyone by attending a teacher's college and becoming an educator, though she eventually married a kind banker and settled in Tulsa, visiting often with her 2 daughters. Hope, the youngest, inherited her mother's independent streak and her father's gentle nature, becoming a veterinarian, one of the first female vets in the state. Marcus and Naomi grew old together on the ranch they had built. By the 1920s, both were in their 70s, gray-haired and weathered but still deeply in love. They would sit together on the porch Marcus had expanded over the years, watching the sunset paint the sky brilliant colors, holding hands as they had for more than 40 years. "Tell me again," Naomi would sometimes ask, "about the day I arrived," and Marcus would tell the story, never tiring of it. "You collapsed from the stagecoach, burning with fever. I carried you to the cabin, and for weeks I did not know if you would survive. You fought so hard, harder than anyone I had ever seen, and when you finally opened your eyes, I knew my life had changed forever. You did not even know my name. I did not need to. You were just a person who needed help, and I was someone who could provide it. Everything else came after. Best decision I ever made, collapsing at your feet, Naomi said with a smile. Best decision I ever made, catching you. They laughed together, the easy laughter of people completely comfortable with each other, who had shared everything life could offer, good and bad. Marcus Cole died peacefully in his sleep in 1931 at the age of 85. Naomi was beside him, holding his hand as she had been for more than half her life. His last words were, "I love you. Thank you for choosing me." "Thank you for saving me," Naomi whispered back. In every way a person can be saved. She lived 3 more years, surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. In the spring of 1934, at the age of 80, Naomi Cole passed away in the same bed where Marcus had nursed her back to life 56 years earlier. Her last words, according to Sarah who was with her, were simple. "I am going home to Marcus." They were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, beneath a simple headstone that read, Marcus Cole, 1846–1931 Naomi Cole, 1854–1934 Beloved parents, grandparents and great-grandparents, love saved us both. Their descendants still work the land, now expanded to over 500 acres, still raising horses and cattle, still telling the story of how it all began. The story of a woman who arrived sick with fever, running from a life that was killing her spirit, and a cowboy who nursed her for months, asking nothing in return, not even her name. The story of love that grew slowly, rooted in kindness and care, blossoming into something that sustained them through decades of life lived fully and well. In the family home, lovingly preserved and expanded over generations, visitors can still see the original cabin where it all began. The bed where Naomi lay dying, the chair where Marcus sat vigil, the fireplace where they shared their first kiss, the table where they ate countless meals and made uncountable memories. But more than physical spaces, they left a legacy of love and courage. Naomi's courage in choosing freedom over security, in trusting a stranger when she was at her most vulnerable. Marcus's courage in opening his heart after years of solitude, in loving without conditions or expectations. Their great-great-grandchildren hear the stories and feel the truth in them, that real love is built in the small, patient moments of care. In changing fever-soaked sheets at 3 in the morning, in teaching someone to ride again, supporting them as they find their balance, in standing firm against forces that would tear you apart, in choosing each other day after day, year after year, through everything life brings. The story of Marcus and Naomi Cole became legend in Tahlequah and beyond, passed down through generations as a reminder of what love can be when built on a foundation of genuine respect, care, and patience. It was not a fairy tale romance of love at first sight. It was something better, a real love that grew from seeds of compassion and kindness, nurtured through months of selfless care, blooming when the time was right, and maturing into something strong enough to weather any storm. On the ranch, now run by Daniel's great-grandson Michael and his wife Nicole, they sometimes host weddings and celebrations. Young couples exchange vows in the shadow of the original cabin, hoping some of that enduring love will bless their own unions. And on quiet evenings, when the wind whispers through the tall grass, and the sun sets over land that has been tended by 5 generations of Coles, you can almost feel them there still. Marcus and Naomi, sitting on their porch, holding hands, grateful for the day she arrived sick with fever, and he chose to care for a stranger whose name he did not even know. That choice, made in a moment of compassion by a lonely cowboy on an October day in 1878, rippled forward through time, creating family, love, legacy. It proved that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply see another person's humanity and respond with kindness. Everything else, all the love and joy and meaning that fills a life well lived, can grow from that single seed. And so the story endures, told and retold, a testament to the truth that love worth having is love worth waiting for, worth working for, worth building slowly and carefully from the ground up. The kind of love that begins not with passion but with compassion, not with desire but with care. The kind of love that saves lives and builds legacies. The kind of love that began when she arrived sick with fever, and a cowboy whose name she did not know chose to nurse her back to life, asking nothing in return except the privilege of watching her heal. In saving her life, he found his own purpose. In trusting him, she found her freedom. Together they found everything that matters: home, family, partnership, and a love that lasted beyond death itself. Their story is over, but what they built continues, carried forward by those who bear their names and their values. The ranch stands. The family thrives. And somewhere, in whatever place souls go when bodies fail, Marcus and Naomi are together still, as they always will be, bound by vows spoken twice, lived daily, and honored completely. A love story for the ages. A testament to the power of choosing kindness, of seeing worth in strangers, of patience and faith, and the courage to build something real. The story of Marcus and Naomi Cole, whose love began in the most unlikely of circumstances, and proved that sometimes the best love stories are the ones built slowly, carefully, moment by moment, in the quiet spaces between crisis and celebration. It was, in the end, a simple story. A sick woman. A caring man. Months of patient nursing. And from those humble beginnings, a love that transformed two lives and created ripples that touched hundreds of others. It was not complicated. It was not dramatic beyond those first desperate weeks. It was just real and honest and true. And that, perhaps, is what made it perfect.